Welcome to another edition of Fens Look and Learn, where today we'll be going through our inventory spreadsheets. So, regardless as to what brand you're going to be working with, all of the spreadsheets are basically set up the same way. So, while this may not be specific for your brand, the sheet that we're going through today, it will, in fact, cover the same information that you need. So, we're just going to go through all of the different areas together. And I'll explain as best I can as to what it is, the why it is, and what information we get from this. So let's dig right in here. So for this example, we're using the country style inventory sheet. So there's a few areas here for each of the columns. So we have our categories, our description, our unit size, unit, case, unit, and then we have our counts and our inventory sheets. So our categories, basically to make it easier for your inventory counts, we have set it up so that each spreadsheet is organized by category. Then within that category, we have the description of each item, and each item is then sorted alphabetically. So I'm just going to scroll down here. And it'll show all the items that we count for our inventories. So next we have the unit size. So if we look at our units here, our unit size is basically how it comes in the package or the case. So it comes in, so let's take apple fritters, for example. So a case of apple fritters for country style comes in. There's 15 individual apple fritters in each case. So then our unit, which is our column here, our unit is the number of individual products or pieces, however it's broken down per that case. So then what we have is we have our cost, and our cost is our case price. So if we look at our case price here, it's $17.87 for our apple fritters. And then what we do is we have our unit cost, which basically takes our case price from column E and divides it by our unit available in column D. So each individual apple fritter costs us $1.19. Now, again, with any of these sheets, the most important thing is that when you're doing your inventories, and I would suggest either doing it minimum on a monthly basis, ideally on a weekly basis. So when you're going through your purchases, which we'll get to in a minute, that you're ensuring that your case prices are always up to date. Because if your case prices have gone up, then you're going to be undervaluing your closing inventories, which will then be throwing your food costs off. Or if the prices have gone down and you're reflecting a higher inventory, it won't account correctly. So your inventory numbers won't be as true. So it's very important to make sure that our case prices are always the same. And not always the same, but that they're always accurate and up to date. And always making sure that our units are always the same as the case. So if a case of apple fritters, they decide to double up the case, which would then be like, say, $35.76, and then the units would then be 30. So you just want to make sure that the units and the case prices are always accurately represented. So then let's move over to our open. So when we talk about opening, this is what I'm talking about actually our opening count. So say it's Wednesday morning. You're coming in, you open up your spreadsheet, you're starting to do your counts, so you start counting down. So let's say we look at apple fritters. So we have a full case of apple fritters. So if we look here, our opening inventory is going to account for that one case for a total of $17.87. And then let's say we have 6 individual apple fritters that are still there. So what our opening total inventory is accounting for is our open case quantity, so that's the amount of full cases that we have on hand, as well as the pricing adjusted for our individual. And then if we scroll down, I'll try not to make anyone motion sick by doing this too fast. So if we come down here, what it does is at the end of your entire inputting all of your opening counts, you're going to have your open inventory total. So that's the total dollar value of all of the products that we count for our inventory on hand in your building for that particular brand. So let's narrow it down even a little bit more. So let's look here. A great example is going to be napkins. Okay, so a case of napkins comes in, and there's 12 packages of 500 napkins. So there's 6,000 in a case. So each napkin costs us $1. Now, if there's 12, so what we could do is you could break it down into a case. Your case is that. So what I'm getting to with this one here is the fact that you're really never going to count each individual napkin. I mean, let's be honest. That's just going to be tedious, time-consuming, and not cost-effective, because if you're getting paid by the hour and you're having to go through and count each napkin, that's going to be a bit ridiculous. So we know that our napkins come in a case of 6,000. In that 6,000, they're broken down by 500s. So let's say you have a full case of a case and a half of napkins. So you're going to be like 1.5, and that's going to do that. So again, for your individual counts here, like you're going to use a basic estimation. So you're going to look at what the size is of that individual package of 500 napkins. You're going to look at what you have in your dispensers loose, or if they're done that way, and you're going to multiply that. So if you have basically, say you have 1.5 loose individual packets of 500, so then you're going to multiply that by the 500. So if you have 1.5 of those times 500, so then that's going to be 750 individual napkins. Does it make sense? I hope so. I mean, and again, if it's new to you especially, it's going to take a bit of time. That's why for the initial counts, it's really important to be able to take your time, dig in. If you have any questions, let me know, because obviously I'm here to help. The reason why I'm doing this video for this is that, A, you can use it to reflect on afterwards, and also because I understand that it's harder to get you all in the same place at the same time to be able to talk through this. So again, this is what we do for our opening inventory. So we get our opening count. So that's our beginning of our inventory is our opens. So then we have our purchased quantities. So what this is any purchases that you make throughout the week. So let's say, for example, you have a case of plain bagels come in. So you're putting in one that's off your inventory. You're going to compare your price, and this is an easy way to check this. So if you're looking at your invoice and you're inputting, okay, the invoice says that I received one case of plain bagels, and the cost for that one case was $38.72. So if you happen to notice that you're inputting the number correctly, but this purchase number over here isn't correct, then what that means is that somehow your case cost has probably changed. So it's a good check and measure to make sure that you go through and do that again. So your purchase quantities, again, are going to be anything from column J, and your K is your purchase dollar value. So this is the quantity that you're adding, and this is the dollar value associated with that. Now, to kind of go back for one quick thing as I'm thinking about it here, when you're doing your spreadsheets, the easiest way to not mess the calculations up is to just remember that all you're doing is filling out for your counts anything on the yellow. So you have your open, your purchased, and then your closing. So if it's not yellow, try not to type in it, because what's going to end up happening is that it's going to, if you look in here, and then we go up here, you're going to see that this is a calculation. So that cell there is formulated to multiply specific numbers there. So you can see here, what's going to happen is I just messed that up. So if I happen to do that, I'm just going to go up here. I'm going to use this arrow here, which says undo typing. And then if I scroll back to this one, I look and I see that the formula is back in place. So again, as much as you can, try to only fill out the yellows. The only time that that's going to be different is if you're adding products, and we'll go through that in a little bit. So again, at the end of entering all your inventories in, you're going to look down here and you're going to look at your purchase total. So this is the total amount of dollar value that you purchased for that brand over the course of the week. So what could you do? So you take, say, for example, you have a Saputo invoice and a TRA invoice, for example, whoever your suppliers are. You could quickly add up your totals on your invoices, and that number should match what you have here on your purchases. If it doesn't, it means that you've probably missed either a line on your invoice or you've missed an invoice in its entirety, which for the most part will be pretty self-explanatory as you go through. So then we have our total purchases there. And again, at the end of the week, so when you're doing your closed counts, this is where at the end of the week you're going to be doing your counts. Again, the very same as your open. So let's talk about this real quick. So in theory, the very first time that you do your inventory is really going to be the only time that you're doing a open count per se, because at the end of that first inventory period, when you do your close inventory counts, that will then become your open inventory for your subsequent counts. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail as we go through. So really the same way you do it as your opening counts. You're going to go through and you're going to count. And again, it will do the same thing. It will account for your price there. And then you're going to look at the individual, let's just say. So again, here it's going to give us total dollar value per item of the cost of the dollar value that we have at the end. So if we scroll down to the bottom, it's going to give us a total dollar value there of what we have on hand at the end of our inventory counts. So I'm hoping that that makes a little bit of sense to everybody. So your opening counts are the full cases under quantity. Open each is the individuals, however it's broken down, and sometimes there might be a little bit math. Or the other side of it too is that while it's very important to make sure that your case prices are always accurate, you can adjust slightly what your units are, because however you want to count your units. So let's go back down, for example, here, and let's look at our coffee filters. Currently, the way that Country Styles inventory is set up is that they come in one package of 1,000 and they're each individual. So when you're counting your counts, again, you could estimate how many of that stack will be in there, because you're not going to count every single coffee filter. That would be a bit crazy. So in certain respects, you're going to be using your best estimate for the quantities. But again, this only comes for things like straws, napkins, coffee filters, etc. When we are talking about things like, let me find a good example here for us. Let's talk about our meats. So our sausage patties, I won't use that actually because that's a individual. They're priced individually. So let's say, for example, we have our ham sliced. So we look here so that our case of ham comes in. There's 6 packages of ham in that case. So each package weighs 500 grams. So this is where scaling your inventory is going to come into hand. So let's say, for example, for the opening count, we have 1 case, but we have an open package of ham. We have ham in the Cambro. So this price here is equivalent to 500 grams of ham. So you're going to take your scale, you're going to tear it off, and by tearing, what that means is it clears off the amount. So if you have your ham in a Cambro or a container, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take an empty container of that same sort, put it on your scale, turn it on, hit the tear button. And now what that's going to do is it's going to account for the weight of that container that the empty container that you're using to hold your meat. So as long as the container is the same same size that your actual product is in, then you could just weigh your Cambro after that, and then it will give you the correct weight. So then if, for example, make sure that the units are correct. Some scales are set up for grams, some are for ounces, some are for pounds. So you just want to scroll through, depending on what type of scale you have on hand there. All of them have settings to be able to adjust for the units that they're measured in. So you want to do that. So then we'd use your scale, and let's say, for example, it says 600. So if we look here, we're like, oh my God, it's got 600 grams. Well, no, that's not the case, right? Because it's not 600 grams. I mean, this is showing that we have 600 of the 500 grams. So what we would do then is, so if we know that each one's 500 and there's 100 grams more than an individual packet, so then what we would probably do is like 1.2, because just in theory, 100 grams is 20% of 500. So we have, if there's 600. So again, you're getting as specific as you can to your thing. Now, the other thing we could do is, for accuracy, we could break this down, and then we could break this price down to reflect what a particular gram weighs. Or not weighs, but costs. So then this here would equal, as opposed to right now, it's saying E89, which is our case cost, divided by 6. But what we could do is we could take that, and this could equal the case cost divided by 6 times 500 grams, which would give us our total grams, and then divide it by that. So we could do it by the actual specific gram. And again, it's going to come down to how narrowed down do we want it. Is this going to give us a absolute finite percent dollar value the way it's set up? No. But what it does is that when there's changes to our case sizes, when there's changes to our unit size and our case prices, what it really allows us to do is the margin of error and the chances of having issues arise from factors over here needing to adjust for over here. So when we do our inventories right now, worst case, for the most part, you're going to find that your case prices are going to change. Not necessarily your unit size or your units, but your case cost. So that way, if you adjust it here, you don't have to worry about adjusting these numbers here and here. And let's slide back again. Okay, so we've covered our open counts, how we do that. We've talked about our purchased, and that's from our invoices. And then we have our close counts. And our close counts, again, will become the open counts for our next sheet. So let's go through a few numbers on this side. So if we look at here as our closed total, right? So why is this red over here? So this is our used column. Now by used, it means it's taking the difference. So we have our opening inventory. We have however much we purchased of that. And then we have what we have at the end. So it takes our opening inventory, it adds our purchased inventory, and it subtracts from that our closing inventory. So this is what we have left on hand. And this will show us in a dollar value how much we've used of that product. And when you see it, if you look down here, it's because the bagels we purchased and we don't have any left. So we've used $38.72 of, I believe it was bagels. But up here it's red. So what does a red mean? Okay, so you see a red number after it's all said and done. That means you have more inventory at your close than you have purchased added onto your opening inventory. So a red number is going to mean that chances are, well, there's no real chances. So what's basically happened is that we've either made a mistake in our closing count, which is, or we haven't added an invoice, or our opening counts are off. Now, again, your opening count should always equal your closing count from the week before, without fail. It's always the same. The only time that would be incorrect was if you happen to have noticed that you made an error with your closing counts, and then you could adjust that for your opening counts. So again, when we look at auditing inventories, what I will often do is when I get sent the information and I look at week-to-week inventories, I will check to make sure that our opening inventories are equal to our closing inventories from the previous week. Because if we deflate our opening inventory and kind of fudge it, not that I think that anyone would do that, but I've seen it before throughout the years, then what it's going to do is it's going to make your food cost look better. It's not going to make your food cost better. It just makes it look better, which is easy enough to go back and double check. So again, if you're looking at red numbers here, for the most part, that's always going to show that there's been an error. Let's go cancel it. There's been an error in our close case, our purchase case, or our open case. So then at the bottom, we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to go here. So again, if we look here, it takes all that information. It takes our open inventory counts. It takes our purchases. This is our total here. Our closing inventory, dollar value there, and our used. So then we look at here, our total sales. So we're going to take our total sales, and let's just say, for example, we had, well, let's just do it this way, $42.87 of sales. Now, again, the rounding and everything like that, because these are just added up. So if we look here, so our COGS, or our cost of goods sold, then, is going to be almost 100% here, because the total amount of product that we used is equal to our sales, which is never going to happen. So let's use an easier number to look at, and let's put in $100 there. So if our sales is $100, and we've used $42.87, which would equal 42.87%, so then our COGS is going to be the same. So basically, a COGS, or cost of goods sold, is representative of our sales, a percentage of the difference between our sales and the dollar value that we've used. So sales is the total dollar value that we have coming in, minus taxes. It's always net sales, so minus any discounts, anything like that. So your net sales minus what of our total inventory is. And that's going to be represented there for our cost of goods sold. So when we talk about COGS, that's what I'm referring to, our cost of goods sold. So, a few other things that I just want to mention while we're on the topic of certain things. So, when we are inputting invoices, I just want to make sure that our case cost is net of tax. We're never putting tax into our inventories because basically any tax that we would pay on a product, we subtract from the taxes owed to the government. Not something that you guys have to worry about, but again, just so you understand. So when you're looking at your case cost, you're making sure that it's net of tax, which will generally be on the line item of each invoice, because generally taxes are added on at the bottom of the invoice. So as long as you're going line by line, you should not have a problem with that. So let's scroll down here and let's go to the bottoms, because we all know that from time to time our menus change. We have new featured items, anything like that. So what we have here is at the bottom, we have some blank spaces. So we need to keep consistency. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look and adjust your, say for example, we have a new pumpkin spice syrup coming in. So if we look up here, and I'm just going to fix this while I'm here right now, because while I was doing this earlier, we did that. So we're going to look and we go, all right, so it is in our beverage area. So we're going to start to type here, and we're going to go beverage. You can just start to type. Generally in Excel, what it's going to do is carry over from whatever you have there. So let's say it's pumpkin spice syrup. Okay, now we'll probably learn to spell syrup, that'll be better. So we have our pumpkin spice syrup. Generally, to make it even easier, most of our suppliers, when we do new things, bring them in by the same quantities. So if we look here in our beverages, we're going to look down for our, let's say it comes in the same way that our iced coffee mix comes in. So we have our quantity there, and we have that there. So we can scroll down, and we can type that in there. So again, this is now going to give us our new quantities and our units. And again, you just want to make sure that that's just if it makes it easier, if you feel comfortable doing that. But again, from your invoice, it should break it down. If not, open the case, take a look. So if there's 12 bottles of, so let's say, for example, they're milliliters. So they're going to be 12 bottles inside. It could be 6, it could be whatever. This is all just theoretical. There's 12 bottles of 600 milliliters. And let's say our case is $40. I have to do this one there without a zero. So what we look here is, okay, so we don't have our information there. I'm going to fix this to make it easier for everybody anyways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this category here. You won't have to do this because by the time I send you the sheet later on today, it is going to be all fixed. Tickety-boo. So if we look here, each bottle then costs us $3.33. So then we would go up here to our save, right? And we're going to save that inventory sheet again. And that is going to account for all of those changes that we've made. It's very important to save. Another thing that I would do is, depending on how your computer is set up, is to have it set up to autosave, which on my computer does it into our automatic OneDrive that we have with the company. And that's for me. Autosave makes it a lot easier if you ever make any mistakes, if you forget to save it. But again, generally as you go, try and save. So now we look and we go, okay, I just added a beverage there, and I want to keep everything together. So how do I deal with that? So the easiest way, and again, easy is in the eye of the beholder, I'm well aware of that. So You're going to go up, you're going to left click on your column there, your column number, which here is 4, right? So you're only going to do from the categories of the actual specific items. So then I'm going to hold that left button down. I'm going to scroll all the way till I get to that last, and including the last product that we've added, right? You're going to let go of that button. So now we're going to see that all these lines are highlighted. So then I'm going to go into our home screen here. Just hit this little home button up here on the top left. Now, over here we have a few things. We use these generally for setting up our macros or our information in the cells that does the calculation. But over here is our sorting button. So we're just going to click on that. We're just going to go sort A to Z. So what that's going to do is that took all that information in these and sorted it by alphabetical order in terms of the categories. So if we look here, oh, geez, what happened to our thing that we just added? Pumpkin spice syrup. So now it's back in the categories. So why, when we're adding an item, do I do it like this? So if I select from the number, right? So I'm actually using my clicker, going over here to the number. I'm scrolling down, and I do that way. So because if I sort, I'll show you here in a second when I get to the bottom. If I sort it this way, it is going to take into account all the lines across, all the calculations, all the pricing. So if I go by column A and then I sort it, all it's going to do is just do what's in this column. Same with any other thing. So you want to make sure that any time that you're sorting out your inventory sheets, that you're doing it by taking your mouse over here to the left-hand side, clicking on whatever number, generally also scroll to the top. Make sure that you've got the right one. So you're going just underneath the category column, and you're going to scroll all the way down. You can go fast, you can go slow, whatever you feel comfortable with. Make sure you include the last thing. If you go further than that, that's fine. So, but you don't want to because it might just give you some blanks there. And then again, you're going to go into your sort A to B. And then we're going to save that again. So what are we going to do at the end there? So when we're done our counts, we're going to go up here to the left-hand side. You're going to see a button there that says File. And you're going to click on that. You're going to left-click on your file, and you're going to go Save As. So you're going to have a file on your file folder on your computer. Right now it's trying to save in my drive, so I'm going to go into this PC. In my desktop, right now I'm in country style, and it's going to say country style inventory because that's the blank sheet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as December 21st, because that was yesterday, 2023. A lot of times when you're saving, it won't let you use special characters in Excel. It won't do that. So we save this, and then you're just going to check up here. Oh, look, it shows me that it was successfully changed. So that's how you're going to save your closing inventory. So now what are we going to do? So let's say, for example, we're using we're doing the opening counts. So we would go into our file, we would open up our previous inventory sheet. You're going to scroll down over here, and I'm just going to put in some random numbers here just to kind of show what we're at here. Okay, so we have all these things. So what you would do to get, so we're in our previous week's inventory, right? I know I'm only going to be using the one spreadsheet here just because the way that the screen record works, it's only going to allow me to show one sheet at a time. So, actually just one app. So let me do this here. This will be even easier. I apologize, I'm thinking as we go. So you could just do it as one giant spreadsheet as well, which is probably the best way to go. So let's rename this spreadsheet, and we're just going to call it December 21st. Okay, so this is our inventory from December 21st. So now let's say it's the 28th, so we want to do our inventory there. So you're going to right click, so you're going to take your mouse, go down here to see where these tabs are. You're going to right click on the inventory that you're going to copy, and you're going to go up to move or copy. And it's going to say these options here, but you're going to go create a copy. Click on that and go OK. So now it's going to show the same name, but with a 2 because you've added it on. So you're going to rename that for whatever the date is that you're going to be doing this. Let's just say it's the 28th. So now we have our original. If we scroll over here, we have our original inventory from the week prior. And now we have our new inventory. So what do we need to do? There's a couple of things. So we know first we need to take our opening inventory, our closing inventory from our previous week, and make it our new opening inventory. I would always say scroll down. So again, let me go back up to the tops because I know that different people have different comfortability with computers. So again, you take your mouse, you go into your first part of your quantity case close, and then your each. You left click on that one, scroll your mouse over to it. Just gets that number there. You can see because it'll make it darker. And you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. The reason why you're going to go down to the bottom is because you could have items there. If we look here on the left-hand side, you're going to see an item there that was from previous. So you want to make sure you're getting all of the items that you've done that. So right down to the end of the yellow there. Let go of your button. While your little square here, if you look there, it's floating around, you're going to right-click on your mouse, and you're going to go copy. So right now we've copied all this information from our close of our previous inventory, right? So we take our numbers here. So again, we're going to go through. We scroll all the way down. So this is in our, this was from our closing inventory from the one before. But once you've copied it, you can just do it right from here. So again, we've cleared down. So we're going to right click like we did before. We copy it. Now we're just going to move our little line over here. And we go into our open case count. So this is the open from our new. So we are going to go in there and up here. So again, you go, all you need to do is click just in this one there, just in that one box there. And then you right click on that. And if you go here, it's going to say like the 1, 2, 3. That just means it's pasting the values that we've copied. And then it's going to give you your opening inventory. So here, your opening inventory from your previous inventory on December 21st has now become your open inventory from your next count. So what do we need to do then? So now, if we look at our purchase quantities, because we've copied this sheet, it is still going to be the amount of purchases that we entered from the previous week. So before we even do any counts, we want to clear that out. So again, we're going to repeat ourselves here again. So for our closed case inventory, we're going to go from the previous week. We're going to left click on the square there for our first product. Just move the mouse over one to catch that quantity of the individual. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the yellows. We get there. We stop as long as it's yellow. Let go of our button. Right click inside there. Copy. And you don't even have to scroll through all the ones there. You just go to the top one there on the left. Right click, hit the 1, 2, 3, and boom. There we have it. It is our opening inventory. It's amazing. A 30 inventory is already done. You didn't have to do anything. It's just moving over the information from the previous week. So our close has become our open. So then what we could do is we're going to do the same thing that we did to copy that. So we're going to go over to our quantity for our close, left click, move over one, right click, scroll down to the bottom, and now, as opposed to copying it, we're going to right click, see our thing there, so we're still inside, we're going to right click, and see how it says clear contents. So if we go right down to the bottom here, we see this option here, clear contents. So we're going to hit clear contents, and what that's going to do is it's going to erase it all. So as opposed to having to go through and deleting all of those quantities, we do it by clearing contents. Now, again, because all of these white ones involve some information that we use for calculations, we do not want to get those changed. So we're only adjusting anything in the yellow. So we cleared our quantities there for our new inventory. And then if we go into our purchase, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to just go to the top line, scroll all the way to the bottom, and right click, clear contents. And then here we are. So we have our new inventory sheet. We have our old inventory sheet. And then what we have is our new updated open counts. So your open counts are always going to be the close counts from the previous week. So if you take this sheet, so another thing, so let's say you don't want to do it individually. You want to do what we've done here, which I think is even better because it just makes it easier to be able to follow up on previous, look at trends, and it's all in one place. So what you could do is you could just go save as, right? So we're back here. We are in our save category here. So we're going to save that. Again, it says OneDrive. We don't want that. So we're going to go into this PC. For me, I'm just looking at my desktop. I have a country style desktop there. So as opposed to December 21st, 2023, which is showing an individual date that we did inventory. So let's say we're going to save this book as Dundonald, for example, 2023. So then, and you could just say, or you could save it as country style, you could save it as whatever. I mean, you know, as long as it's consistent, because this information here is mainly for your own benefit. So by doing it this way, we do it there. So now we have our opening inventory, and we're always saving it. So if we look at what we have here, we have all of our categories. We have our description, our unit size. I'm going to turn my internet off here so that way I can not be disturbed. And we have all of this information here. So we have our categories, our description, unit size, case point. It's very important, again, to make sure that all of this is accurate. So as long as your unit size and your units are reflective of each other and your case size is accurate, and you don't mess with these unless you're making a specific change for that, when you fill in these numbers, they should be accurate. So if I go in here again, I'll just do this quickly. I can just clear that off. Clear contents. And it's going to give you a bit of an insight there. So, again, this is all very, I would say quick, but yeah, it's almost 45 minutes. So I appreciate your taking the time to watch this. Again, take your time, go through your sheets, become comfortable with them. The main thing is that we need to start getting these inventories done consistently. So another note is try and always have the same people doing inventory because it's just as easy. Because especially if we're using, let's say, for example, we look at our coconut here. Well, what I would call a half of a case of coconut might be different than what you would call half of a case of coconut. So, or a kg of coconut, unless we're weighing it specifically. So we want to make sure that the same people are doing it so we have consistent counts so that even though we do slightly estimations at times for some of them, depending on the categories, especially like napkins, straws, etc., we want to make sure that we're going to have consistency of those estimations, so that way we have a more accurate idea of what's going on. So then when you're looking at your weekly sheets that we'll get into on another video, because again, I can only open one sheet at a time, we're going to show how we take this information and this information and this information and make it for how to fill out your sheets. Okay? So I thank you so much for joining me today. I know you've had 45 minutes of listening to my voice. But I do appreciate your time, and any questions that you have, feel free to reach out, and I will get clarity for you as much as I can. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great day.